Our first speaker today is Konstantin Izurov from Mathematics and Statistics track. And Konstantin, please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, I should say that I'm not the track leader. The track leader is in Mathematics and Statistics, posted here when in post-prevalent. So I'm covering for her today, and this is her slides, except for the first one.
Why switch them? Just click and then you can use it.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, how do we get a supervisor in Mathematics and Statistics track? And what constitutes a bachelor thesis? Well, a typical thesis is 15 to 20 pages long. They tend to be a little bit longer. So usually when I supervise them, I have to tell people to actually cut it off a little bit in terms of time and so on. And typically it's not really research level. So it's a task in you learn to write mathematics or statistics, introduce all the necessary background, talk to a certain target audience, a certain level, would be consistent throughout the thesis. So typically you introduce a background, and then you give a proof of a result, or you introduce a method and give some applications of a method, or you introduce a concept and prove some properties of that concept. And usually you have taken some intermediate level course in mathematics or statistics. And the way it works is that you like that course, you want to learn more, and you really pick a topic that was not covered in that course, but touches upon that and maybe allows you to go deeper, study a certain concept on yourself and write a thesis on that. And the maturity test is really just something that you usually write anyways when you write a mathematical text, which is an abstract, a short summary of what is done and, in the text. And to get the thesis advisor, you really can approach any staff member of the faculty of the Department of Mathematics and Statistics. Many people, of course, know some teachers who taught them some courses, and they ask from them. At the bachelor level, we typically we all can give thesis on any topics. It will not go very deep. So it does not have to be that the teacher you approach is an expert in the topic that you choose. Although, of course, it's often the case. And yeah, certainly you can choose whatever what you are interested in. So you can either choose a topics on your own. I had students coming to me with topics readily formulated, and I needed to just make sure that give some feedback, make sure that it makes sense, that it is reasonable for a bachelor thesis, and they will write on that. Or you can just I don't know, approach a teacher of your favorite subject and ask to give a topic of their choosing to go deeper into that subject. Okay, so there are some examples here. So this is an example. If you really studied logics, then you maybe know what is written here. I haven't studied logic, so it's all Greek to me. But really, if you studied logic, maybe you will approach one of the members of the logic group, for example, POSA, and write the thesis on POSA theorem. So if you have studied algebra, a bit of abstract algebra that contains group theory, then you can pick up a small topic in group theory. So here the example is a group symmetry group of freezes. So freeze is this kind of periodic one-dimensional pattern. And so since it's periodic, its group of symmetry always contains these, because you can shift by a number, but it can contain something else. For example, here it's also symmetric with respect to reflection, with respect to the real line. And in general, it turns out that you can classify completely the freeze groups, which are possible symmetries of such patterns. There are in total 7 of them. For example, you can have a pattern that is also symmetric with respect to the reflection with respect to a point. So this one is not, but if you flip the downside, turn it to the left, then it will be. And it's not far from group theory that you would have studied in the algebra course, abstract algebra course, but it touches on some very serious topics in group theory, like wallpaper groups and crystallographic groups that classify symmetry groups of something in higher dimensions. Okay, another example is from combinatorics. So here, if you studied combinatorics, maybe you know what you know a little bit of it, but the formulation here is elementary, so you really don't need any background on that. So what Ramsey's theorem says in the simplest formulation, well, one of the formulations is that there are more than 18 people in this room. So what Ramsey's theorem tells is that there are either 4 people among us who are all mutual friends on Facebook, or 4 people such that no 2 of them are mutual friends on Facebook. So it's a theorem, maybe we can just try to prove it empirically, and for a group of 4 who are all mutual friends on Facebook, which I gather is more likely here. But there is this general formulation that okay, it's a bit of a mouthful. Right. So if you have taken enough, yeah, there is a slide about finding a supervisor and a topic. Just we are all fairly approachable, so don't hesitate to knock on a door or ask also, or ask me. I'm not a track representative, but I'm an academic mentor or coordinator of academic mentors. And really just ask any teacher, and if you have a topic already in mind, they will not and they will not want to supervise a teacher on that topic. They will refer you to whoever is most suitable. And there are also, if you have taken enough statistics, then you can really take a statistics topic as a bachelor thesis topic. So there are several people working in statistics. The name are here, and possible topics also here. So you can write something related to probability. Really, any teacher and then in the department can give you a topic on probability, but also statistical inference, linear models, generalized linear models, Bayesian inference. Here are some examples of topics. Yeah, and I think that's what I wanted to say. Are there any questions? So maybe about enough statistic. What is enough statistic is really not rigorously defined, but if you think that you will possibly continue to study in statistics, you probably know.
Are there many people here from this track, from the mathematics and statistics? Can you please hold it? Lift your hand. 2? Oh, 3. Okay. Not so many. So, any questions? Okay. So let's thank Konstantin. And now let's move on to the next speaker, Tina Nyklander from Computer Science track. And let's
matter where I stand.
Hmm?
It doesn't matter where I stand, I suppose.
I think that if you stand somewhere there, you will be captured quite well.
Okay,
Will it be fine?
yeah, it's fine. So basically, how many of you are planning to do are doing the computer science, data science track? Some. Great. To you guys, the key point is that in the computer science and data science track, the thesis process is slightly different than in the other tracks. In most of the other tracks, you need to find a teacher yourself and design the topic with the teacher. In computer science and data science track, we do it in a small group guidance session where the group leader, the leading teacher, has more to say about the topic than just in some cases you are not able to get a topic that you specifically want, but that's what we do with our Finnish students also. We deny them topics all the time because some of the topics are way too different. They're way too difficult for a bachelor level thesis. So computer science and data science thesis is written by yourself, but the guidance is offered in a small guidance group. And the thesis is started when the group starts and it's finished when the group ends, and the group runs 2 periods. So a thesis is written in 1 term. How many of you are already in a group and writing a thesis? Great. The rest of you, please remember to register the thesis process in November for the spring term. You have to register the thesis process in advance. That's 1 point. It's only 1 term, and topic is agreed with the group leader when the group starts. And there might be some limitations about the topic, but you are welcome to provide suggestions, and in most cases, those can be adjusted to be the thesis topic. But in some rare cases, it's not possible, but typically it's possible to find some kind of combination from the students' interest and the teachers' interest together. And there's a weekly meeting for the teacher to monitor their progress and also to support the progress so that the thesis is actually written during the 1 term. The references are published scientific articles, and it is an article-based thesis. So based on my 30 years in the computer science department guiding bachelor thesis, there has been 1 student who insisted and did some experiments against the advice given to that student. All of the others followed the guidance advice and did just a paper-based thesis. Bachelor thesis is not that long. And because we want to squeeze it in 2 periods, it's just not possible to write a big program and do all the measurements and experiments during that time. Because for us, it's more important to guide you how to learn computer science, scientific articles, and how to present that information in a scientifically valid way. Master's thesis then gives you a bit more freedom towards the experiments, and then the doctoral thesis is typically way more experimental with the scientific approach, of course. So typically there's no experimental part because it would be too time consuming. And also it wouldn't give that much extra information or extra value to the thesis itself. And that's what the thesis is, that written document, and it's graded, only the written document is graded. And it's based on scientific articles that have to be the citation processes and all the writing styles have to be in proper shape. So you pressed somewhere here. Okay. So the registration, those of you who are already in the group have done the registration. For the rest, if you want to do the thesis in the spring, it's in November, the registration period in SISU, where you have to inform us what kind of topics would you be interested in, etc. And then you'll be placed in a guidance group. There aren't that many guidance groups in English this moment, so that might also somehow limit the topic options. Last year, the registration deadline went a few days to December, but sometime in November, at least at the latter part of the November, is the registration is open. If you cannot find it in SISU, let me know and I'll ask a teacher. If you have missed the registration deadline, unfortunately, with a big number of students, we cannot guarantee you any more a position. It might be possible, but more likely not. So be on time. Squeezing all the 150 students, Finnish and English including, to the guidance groups cannot allow late arrivals because we don't have space for those. We cannot reserve extra space. The topics are quite often somehow algorithm and AI related rather than software related because we don't have that much teachers guiding software thesis, especially on the bachelor level. Those are used to guide software thesis on the master's level. So especially software related theses are very rarely available on the bachelor as a bachelor thesis. They might be, but might not be. So don't count on being allowed to do a very software-related thesis. There's also another issue with the software-related thesis. Those are a bit more difficult to gain high grades because quite often the amount of materials, it's more difficult to evaluate which are scientifically more valid than some others. There are better topics and there are not so easy topics on that area if you are aiming for higher grades. There's no promise that we can give you a place based on your interest, but we do our best. So if you don't tell us anything, you'll be randomly placed in a group. And that might be a match or might not be a match. The more information you give in the registration phase, the better probabilities and better chances you are to be in a group that suits your own needs. But more importantly, this is done in a group guidance session. There is no opportunity to do it individual, as fully individual, because our teachers are quite overloaded and we are reserving only some of the teachers for thesis guidance on every term. It's just a question of teacher resources, basically. Oh yeah, this picture. That's a Nodes lab. It's our networking lab. It's in this floor, and it has this nice blue electromagnetic radiation observation chamber, an EMC chamber. That when you go in and close the door, your mobile phone loses its connection. That's what the chamber means. But let's go back to the thesis writing process. So during the registration, give us as much of your opinions and viewpoints and your ideas that you can give us. If you don't know, but you definitely know that you don't want to have a graphics topic, please tell us that too. So your opinions can be also against certain areas. That's also valuable information for the teacher trying to create the groups based on students' mutual interests. There's a topic negotiation phase when the course starts, with the teacher leading that particular group. And you might get a topic you like, and you might not. If you don't like a topic, be very clear in the beginning, and then the topic can be adjusted. Nobody is given a topic against their will. But you might not get a topic that would be your number one target. There's always room for negotiation. But you cannot always get the topic that you want to. But a simple step-by-step process is that in the beginning, you search for existing scientific articles, read those, create some kind of small overview about the topic, practice in gathering information from those theses, and then you create the structure for your whole thesis, and then a midterm paper that's somehow half of the thesis, and then in the end of the 2 terms, you have the final thesis, which is approximately 20 pages in 14 weeks. Means 1.5 pages per week, which isn't that much. But it's still a process that you need to go through because there are several articles you are reading and also practicing finding the information. And then during the meeting, you also peer review some of the other students' thesis in your group. So that you also get somehow a big feedback about the evaluation process and also get some more detailed information about which features are actually used in the evaluation. This is just to make sure that everybody understands how the thesis is graded before you actually submit your final thesis, so that there's less negotiation about the thesis evaluation process at that point. And that was more or less what I wanted to tell you about the computer science thesis. You noticed I didn't tell you anything about the topics, because the topics are fully negotiated with the group leader when it starts. If you have any questions to me, please don't hesitate to make the questions. There's plenty of space for those. And you can always send me an email to my email address, tiina.niklander@helsinki.fi, or you can ask also from Emilia Oikarinen, who is the teacher on this fall term course. She will also give information related to the spring version if necessary, or she can relay them to the spring teacher. So, any questions?
So, some of you mentioned that you already are working on your thesis, aren't you?
Yeah, there were at least 2 or 3 hands.
Okay, and are you already in this course? Yeah.
Could you tell me what thesis topics are you writing in the computer science groups? No, thesis topic areas. Those of you who are writing, yeah.
Networks,
And more specifically,
circumventing the censorship.
Okay. thanks. Just willing to know which topics are currently running, because I haven't been guiding thesis for a few years now.
Using Open Run as opposed to like proprietary protocol and radio units and distributed units, social units in the radio access network.
Yeah, that's not that's more descriptive than just the topic, but that's nice at this point because you might not have the actual title yet. You create that on the way. And you were the third. Do you have also?
No, I wanted to write my thesis, but I didn't get to apply in time. So
Okay,
I got it.
so you'll apply for the spring term. Okay. But there are a variety of topics. And no questions. Everything is clear. Remember to register the course on time, because we cannot squeeze in the late registers. And if you don't register on time, the worst thing that might happen is that you have to do it next fall. And for some of you, it might be too expensive. So be on time for the spring term. Especially for the spring term, it's more important. For fall, it's not that, because there's always the spring to cover things, but for the spring term, it's important to register on time.
Any more questions? Okay, let's thank Tina. Already one. So now let's move on with our session, and we have now on the university lecture in computational biophysics.
even from the Department of Physics, who is at the same time a track leader for physics study track, Waldemar Kulik. And Waldik, please, the floor is yours.
Thanks. Good afternoon. So as you already heard, my name is Waldemar Kulik. Some of you know me from some courses in physics. Some of you might also kind of remember me from the first year introductory courses here and there. So effectively, I'm representing the physics track here and the physics department. And just briefly, the research in the physics department here can be divided into three big categories. So there is a material science division, there is astrophysics and particle physics, and atmospheric science. And these are three big kind of topics or branches of physics we do here. I also put some links in this presentation, so later I would assume that this presentation will be added to the Moodle, so you can check out those links and explore it a little bit more. So a couple of words about different pieces. So if we think about this material science, we have different subsections. We have the accelerator laboratory, we have the X-ray laboratory, we have biophysics, we have medical physics here. Those of you who speak Finnish, they can also go to the didactics in physics and then teach in high schools or secondary schools and so on and so forth. When you think about
Just click on that.
oh, sorry. When you think about the astrophysics and particle physics, we have both the experimental part, theoretical part, we have astrophysics as well. We participate in some pan-European and worldwide observatory experiments. So the CERN, for example, we have our scientists going there and doing the research and so on and so forth. On top of that, there is so-called Helsinki Institute of Physics, which is hosted here in Kumpula. And this is the governmental institution which branches or coordinates all research and participation of Finland in different international organizations, like European Space Agency and so on. And they have also their research program. So there are links here, so you can check it out if you are interested in those research things. And finally, the third branch is the atmospheric sciences, and we have this big EINAR Institute here, which does the atmospheric research, which bridges chemistry and physics and meteorology and environmental sciences and so on and so forth. Now, this is about the research which is going on in the Department of Physics. But now, for you, as the third-year students who are about to graduate and about to write their thesis, the question is, how can you find your supervisor and your topic? So, and then how this process should look like. So first of all, you need to agree on some topic with your supervisor. And your supervisor could be any researcher, which is hired by the university. This could be professor, university lecturer, university researcher, or postdoc. So any of those people will do. Now, how the standard topic of the bachelor's thesis in physics look like? It could be, and this is the most common case, it could be based on some literature review. So your supervisor, upon agreeing with you on some topic, provides you with several papers or textbooks or whatnot on a given topic, and your task is to write a literature review as your bachelor's thesis. The other option could be some small piece of software, to write some small piece of software which, for example, analyzes some existing results of some experiments or simulations. The other thing is to analyze some existing experimental or theoretical data. finally, you might also be tasked in applying some existing model in a new situation, and so on and so forth. So these are like the standard examples of how the bachelor thesis in physics look. Now, how do you find those people here, which I listed? You can go to the People Finder, which is available at the website of the University of Helsinki. And there are plenty of filters. If you use the filter for the fields of science, physical sciences, and the title of the stuff as one or all of those categories, you will get the list, possible list of staff members which work in that field. And out of that, you can actually find a person who does something you are interested in, whether it's experimental or theoretical, whether it's the biophysics or particle physics or anything else. Now, here I put some examples of the titles of the bachelor theses which were done in this department. So you see that there is a plethora of different topics. You can go into, matter, antimatter, asymmetry. You can do some societal studies or some analysis of societal data. You can go to the meteorological physics. You can think about how to bridge computer science and use machine learning methods in material science, and so on and so forth. So you see, this is, and this is only like very small chunk of possible topics people did their bachelor thesis in the last, I think I gathered them from the last 3 or 4 years, and just gave some examples. Now, if you are interested in looking through the actual bachelor's thesis which were done, there are 2 lists. For our program, we have a list of past bachelor theses for each tracks, actually, not only for physics, but for every track, already in the Moodle page of the academic mentors. You can check it out there, and there is a list of those topics as a PDF there, so you can use it. And then there is another link. These are the lists. These are topics listed from the bachelor's program in physical science. So some of them are also in Finnish because this is Finnish-speaking program, but many theses there are actually written in English. So the topics are given in English as well. So you can get a hint of what bachelor thesis topic should look like or looks like. On top of that, on both lists, there is also not only topic, but also the supervisor. So this could also give you the idea of the potential scientists you would like to approach and ask if they have any title, any topic for you to write the bachelor thesis in that specific field. I think that's roughly it, what I had for you. So effectively, the whole process is relatively simple. It is on the paper. You find them either field or scientist you like, because, for example, you had some courses with them, or you've heard from colleagues that this person is approachable and whatnot. Or this person effectively works in the field of science you would like to do some research in and write your thesis there. And when you find this person, you ask them, send an email if they have a time and topic for you now. And if they agree, you agree on a specific topic, and then you start working with them and effectively write your thesis. That's it. So if you have any questions, I'm willing to answer them.
How many of you are in physics? Quite a number.
Quite very nice number.
Everyone is recommended by the letter on the background.
Since you started doing this seminar already, so I would say that maybe like by Christmas time, you should roughly know who will be your supervisor and possibly topic. And then when the new year comes, the new semester, that would be the time when you start writing slowly. Because it's somehow dependent on your schedule, because you still have your courses to finish and so on. But this is really personal. Some people can write their bachelor thesis within a month or within 2 weeks when they see 8 hours every day and write. But some people would need to spend 3 months and every week like just spend an hour or two on that. Yeah. So that depends on what is your load in terms of your courses right now, and also how you agree with your supervisor. Because this sometimes you will have to do some research, you will have to do some analysis or write some piece of software before you actually start writing the thesis, the text of the thesis, depending on what topic that would be. So I would suggest that the sooner you find your supervisor and the topic, the better, while the writing itself, of course, can be postponed to the next semester. But then, of course, you can mentally prepare yourself as well about like, okay, I need to maybe read this about this or that before I start doing anything. So
yeah, how long is it acceptable? Well, I mean, of course, you don't want it to be too long, but like, I mean, like, I feel like especially with physics, like a 15, 20 page.
I think
limit is quite.
I think this is roughly what one would expect. I think like I've seen some of them which were like 30 pages, but that was on the longer
Yeah, because
end.
that's something too long,
Yeah, but of course, I'm talking about everything, references and everything, like from not just text. I'm talking about whole stuff with table of contents and then all the figures and everything like that. So of course, out of that, this is maybe half of it is maybe a text.
Yeah.
The rest is either figures or tables or whatnot. Yeah. So as I said, like I saw around 30 pages, some of the longer one, but 20 is totally okay and so on. So
20 pages includes all the pictures and everything.
I would imagine. Yeah, because it really depends on what is an actual task you did. Yeah, if you do the literature research, this might be a little bit, or like literature review, it could be a little bit longer because you have plenty of material and you need to kind of, write it up, or something like the story around it and kind of the background and give some explanation. If you write, for example, a piece of software which takes some specific experimental data and extracts some properties, then actually the software itself is kind of a part of the thesis. So you can include it as an appendix, yeah, or you give a link to, Bitbucket or whatnot, where you put your software, while the text in the thesis will be only saying, okay, this is my goal, this is the background, how this data or whatever experiment was done, and what I can get out of that. And after that, this is short description of the software you did. Okay, so I use this method to extract that property. This is the final plot with the results, full stop. Yeah, so it's then like a report from the lab, as you had plenty of labs already. So you wrote a report from the given lab. This is the same, like a little bit longer report of what you did and why. So it doesn't have to be very long. And it kind of really depends on the topic and what your task is. Any other questions?
Okay, so let's thank Waldik.
So you can see the first thing here, I'm breaking Kai's golden rule of last week about putting stuff at the bottom of the slides. I'm obviously not Mia Mantamaki, but Mia Mantamaki is the person in charge of this study track, and unfortunately today she had a meeting at the exact same time, so I promised to stand in for her. So these are Mia's slides, and if you've got any detailed questions afterwards, then you can either ask myself or you can ask Mia, and Mia would be a little bit more in the know than I am on the specifics here. So in the chemistry study track, you're going to see that you need to do a bachelor's thesis and a maturity test. That's the mandatory stuff. But then also we have this research project in chemistry. So 6 credits for the thesis. This is just a hoop that you have to jump through. And then we have this 10 credit project, which is an elective. But as a chemist, you really should be thinking about doing both the 10 credits and the 6 credits, because this is the practical skills which are really going to be useful for jobs or for doing master's projects or PhDs afterwards. So please consider doing both, but note that one is not obligatory. So for the thesis in chemistry for the 6 credits, it's a literature-based review. It's the same as what our normal BSc chemistry students are doing on our normal degree there. So you're doing the same thing as them. And there you're going to have to find a supervisor who's going to help you with the writing process. And I'll talk a little bit more about finding supervisors in a few slides' time. And then the grading for the thesis is just the normal grading of 0 to 5, 0 being a fail, and then 1 through 5 being passes. The maturity test that you have to do, a legal formality, can be done in any of the 3 teaching languages at the university. And in chemistry, as in from this year, we've decided that the maturity test is no longer the abstract to the thesis. That's what it used to be. Now, instead, you have to write a short essay based upon what you've done in your thesis topic area. And that is done under supervision of the supervisor in their office or in a seminar room in the research group's labs. And that's just simply graded as pass or fail. And it's a fairly easy thing to do, but it is a formality that you have to have. Then in terms of the research projects in chemistry, there's 10 optional credits that you could elect to do. This is only available, obviously, to students on the chemistry track. It is elected, but as I said, I would definitely give serious consideration to doing this because it's the real world skills, the hands-on skills that you need in an experimental science like chemistry. So it boosts your CV considerably. You can carry that research project out in the same area as your bachelor's thesis topic. So whatever it is your literature review is going to be on, you could end up getting some practical skills in that same area of chemistry, but it doesn't necessarily have to be linked. But it does make for a better package, of course, if you can link the 2 things. And then in terms of these 10 credits, then this is just a pass-fail. So it's based upon the work you do in the supervisor's lab. And if they think that you've done enough at good quality, then you would be given the pass for those 10 credits. Just a final thing here as well, that it can also include the life experience credits as well, but that's optional. The research project would take, on average, between about 5 to 7 weeks, and we consider that to be 5 to 7 weeks of full days in the lab. So there's basically a time commitment that we would expect you to qualify for those credits. It is a personal project that you do yourself, but you do it as a member of a research group. So basically within the chemistry department, we will try to pair you up with a postdoc or a PhD student in chemistry that will help you along your way in our laboratories and doing research science. And we do have a theoretical computational chemistry group in our department. So you can either do this with real world hands-on skills in the lab, or we can teach you about how we do computational chemistry, the programs that we use to do that. And you can learn to work with that and code, etc. Computational chemistry. At the end of it, you write a short report about the work that you've done. That can be, of course, complementary into the thesis, so it extends the thesis beyond the literature review. But again, it depends if you paired those 2 things up. And note that we wouldn't be grading your thesis contingent upon having that extra experimental part in. It's the literature review that is the important part of the BSc chemistry thesis. Timing of your work. So when should you be engaging in this? Well, basically, you can see we got some prerequisites here. So you have to have most of your basic studies done, equivalent to about the first 2 years of your degree. So as you enter into the 3rd year now, it's a good time to be thinking about what you want to be doing for your thesis topic. It's a bit late to say that you could start thinking about it in the summer after 2nd year that's passed, but now really should be the time that you're beginning to think about this. And you can do the thesis before or after the research project, but if you're linking the 2, it's maybe perhaps better that you do the research first and then the thesis after. In terms of finding a supervisor, there's lots of ways you can find about the research topics that we host in the Department of Chemistry. So we've got a couple of links here that tell you about the research that we do. We sometimes update this, but it's not updated more than once or twice a year. It lists the potential topics that you could have. And of course, you'll have these slides available to click through in the links in due course. So I think really the best way of finding a project is to go and speak to the professors. So those that are teaching you or those that are doing subject matters that you're interested in, just go knock on their door, have a conversation with them and see if they can host you for a project that you're interested in. I think that's the main thing. You should be interested in the topic. So go hunt down somebody. If wherever you're struggling, then you can go speak to Mia and she should be able to point you in the right direction about finding a supervisor, because she's responsible for the track and ultimately she would be responsible for finding your project if you couldn't find it yourself. Also note that we can have the research projects being hosted outside the university. We've had this happen in the past where people have found positions within companies or research institutes like VTT, where they could be hosted for a research project or for a literature review. So that's possible, but if it is something that you're interested in doing, note, we have to know in advance, you have to notify a responsible professor within the department for to be eligible to do the thesis outside of our department. And then on Mia's last couple of slides, it's just about telling you the different research areas that we have within the Department of Chemistry. So we've recently sort of rebranded how we do our research, and we now have 3 core themes in our department: materials science, materials chemistry, energy research, and then chemistry of health and environment. And in Mia's slides, you can see she just divides this up into the different sort of laboratory areas that we have. So for materials, we've got crystallography group. We've got a group looking at recycling and the green economy, falls under the circular economy theme. We have my research group looking at nuclear waste disposal. On the 4th floor of the I building, we have the polymers and colloids research group led by Robert Luxenhofer, and then Mikko Rittala with the atomic layer deposition group. Within the energy theme, we've got catalysis and green chemistry, which is Tema Repo and Pedro Camargo, nanoparticle analysis in our analytical chemistry group, reaction kinetics and physical chemistry, general radionuclide chemistry in my laboratory, and then again, ALD with Mikko Rittala falling also under the energy theme. And then health and environment, very, very broad, spread over a lot of different research groups within our department. But one of the more interesting areas, I think, would be radio tracers, which is with Merca Separanta, and then our theoretical chemists as well. So there's lots of different themes, lots of different people. Just take the initiative and go and start to talk to the professors. And then the final thing I want to say is that we do offer help with thesis writing. We understand that's probably one of the hardest things that you face as students as you come to get some writing skills. And so we have a thesis guide, which can be found again on our web pages. And because you have the slides, you'll have the URL to click through. So that's everything from chemistry. Do we have any specific questions? Yes.
I heard it was no longer possible to include our research project in fighting.
It's not untrue, it's just that it's not part of the assessment. So if you want to have a package that you put together, you can have the literature review and you can have the research writer. But marking, we pay no attention to that. Anything else? No? Okay, is there anything additional that you wanted to say in today's session? Or you
Yeah,
talked at the start?
I told already that our next session will be online with the formal requirements for bachelor's thesis. So please join, and the attendance will be marked, but please just write your name and surname in the chat box, okay?
And then following next week's online, we switch back into in-person. We've got Robert Luxenhofer who comes to talk about the ethics of research. Those are very interactive sessions with Robert. They tend to be quite fun. Students in the past with the feedback have said that they were the 2 best sessions that we do in the course, so please do make an effort to come in person for those, okay? We're done. See you later.